I've set myself the challenge of turning my cheap wrecked Mercedes AMG GT into a £500,000 Black Series. But this is not a task which is going to be easy or cheap, as we found out in the last video when we went into Mercedes-Benz to price up the full list of Black Series parts which we'd need for the conversion. It was horrifying.
30,800, 13,696, 17,666, 12,481, 3,162.
The amount of parts needed and the price of them was terrifying.
Yeah, probably. £155,000, £504.76 I think we need to look into other options. Which is exactly what I did.
And found ourselves a cheaper alternative by buying this replica kit from China. That looks carnage, doesn't it?
But buying these kits sight unseen, not knowing the quality you're going to receive, is always a huge risk, because it could mean I've poured £10,000 down the drain.
We've managed to do the first fit up on some of the parts, getting the wings on and the rear bumper on, but the parts left are really going to show the true quality, or not perhaps, of this kit. Now on the front end at least we still have some more repair work which needs doing, which I think I have a solution for, but we'll come back to later in the video before we fit up the front bumper and bonnet. But for now I want to kick off exactly where we left off in the last video with the spoiler. Now the one that's going on the car is going to be massive, but the first thing that we need to do is get off this standard active little tiny spoiler and replace it with the one.
But to get this one off, it was safe to say there was a fair few bolts to remove.
So now I took all of those bolts out. This should just release. Not too bad.
And myself and Ethan assembled the rear spoiler, which is going to be going on the car shortly at the tail end of the last video, so that's already in one piece.
So now we've got that cute little one out of the way, look at what we're replacing it with. This is going to look nuts. And I'm hoping not be too bad to fit. Oh mate. Woohoo! And now I can pop it in place. That is ridiculous. I like it. I like it a lot. Now I need to get underneath it and hold this in place still. Wow, I love it. I can see a problem here because on the underside there seems to be a visible gap where air, oh well, I can see daylight through it, which means that that is going to go directly into the interior. Which means that that's going to let water in, which is a bit of a problem. So on the underside of the boot, what I've done is just put 3 extra large washers on top of the bolts which came with it, just to help spread the load a bit. But now, well, check this out. It is beautiful. Look at the size of it as well. Now, there is actually another bit which goes on here, just the end plate, but I'm going to figure out how I want to attach that, whether I'm going to bond it, or maybe even try and insert a riv nut in there so I can bolt it on, and maybe bond it too, to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Well, now that monstrosity is on, it really does transform the silhouette of the car, and yeah, I really like that. It saves it from, I don't know, just having this slopey off back that goes nowhere. Really like that. We are on to the front end, and there's a couple of things here which were going to hold us back, one of which being the crash bar. We managed to get this part from Mercedes, but these parts here are on back order and both bent, which is a big problem because we can't really get much further without getting that on.
But I think I may have a solution which will fix all of my problems. So we can remove the old brackets and the brand new crash bar, which I kind of half fitted.
Now, rather than dilly-dallying around and waiting for parts which might not show up for months, I've had to bite the bullet and go and buy this complete second-hand crash bar. They wouldn't sell me the brackets separately, so I just had to buy the whole thing, and it's all bolted up there with everything I need. So hopefully now I can get this in and carry on reassembling the front end. Ready for the bumper.
So I can now start fitting up the second-hand one which I've picked up, and I guess I'm going to have to try and sell on the brand new one which I bought to recoup some costs. Now, strangely on the new one of the bolts was super rusty, but you'd be glad to know that I changed that out for one of the other ones.
So now, before I can push forward any further with the body kit, there's one last thing which I need to do, and that is sorting out these oil cooler lines, which I'm sure is going to be lots of fun. So I've got to drain the oil out of it, change the lines over, because at the ends they're bent, get the new ones on, and then I can attach that to the oil cooler, and then mechanically I think we should be good.
So we can very quickly swap those over and push forward with the build. And the reason why we want to do these bits now is because we want to try and make sure that the car is as mechanically sound as possible. So there's not really too much messing around to do once these body panels are on. But there's another great tool which we can use to make sure our cars are in tip-top health and ready for the road. And that is OBD11, and it couldn't be much easier to use. All you've got to do is pop it out the box, stick the OBD11 device into the car's OBD2 port, then fire up the OBD11 app, hit connect, and then select the device, and it's going to detect which sort of car that we're working on. As you can see right now, we're sat in my BMW X3M, and I've got a couple of faults which I've been struggling to sort, and one of them being an airbag light which has come on since this car's come on the road, and it is for the safety battery terminal which is in the back. I've had a look at this and it looks like one of the clips has gone missing out the plug, so thanks to OBD11 I can get that plug ordered and hopefully get that light off the dash. But OBD11 can do so much more than that, because with BMWs from E series to I series and also minis and any VAG group car, there's a bunch of one-touch applications so you can turn on hidden features on your car. And we can even turn off some annoying features on this car, like some of the things that the car says when we put it into reverse, telling us to watch out for our surroundings. So with the touch of a button we can turn those off, and let's check it worked. Here we go. Car on, and then put it into reverse. No more warnings. That's much better, isn't it? Much cleaner. But there's all sorts of things you can do on these cars, and also basic diagnostics for any car fitted with an OBD2 port. So to grab yourself an OBD11 device, go to the link in the description and use discount code SLIX to save yourself some money and start coding and diagnosing your car yourself. Let's get back to work. Right, new oil lines are on, crash bars on. That means that we can carry on. Ethan's here. Say hello, Ethan. Yeah, right. So now, while I've got Tim, because I need a second set of hands in order to do the bonnet, so we can get this off and then try the new one on. Hopefully it fits well, because if not, we could be in for a whole world of problems. We've got some new hinges to go on, because pretty much every time your car's involved in a crash and your bonnet gets damaged, these will get damaged too and make your panel gaps all a mess. So we've got to get these on first. So Ethan fits up his side and I fit up my side. I can't describe how excited I am to get this on. I think I'll leave the bubble wrap on while we move it. Probably a good idea. The last thing we want is for this to get damaged now, after it's come thousands of miles. That would be a stupid move. This could either line up and make everything look really good,
or make it look absolutely shocking.
Never line up and look terrible, yeah.
So nervously we unpackaged the bonnet, hoping there was no damage from transit, and also hoping that it's gonna fit as it should, because if it doesn't, there's not much we can do to make this fit much better.
How's she looking? See any damage yet?
Nothing, mate.
Nothing so far. It's unpackaged and it looks pretty good from here. Well, it's on. The lines ain't great at the moment. We're overlapping this side slightly, and we've got a huge gap this side. So we need to move it all over that way a tad, and try and make it all nice and even. Now, some of the adjustment might actually be needed in the wings, not necessarily in the bonnet, but we can try and line this up nice and central for a start.
Give it a pull.
You want to pull it? Yeah, let's pull.
Ooh. Oh, okay. Are we in that side?
No.
No, we're touching this side.
Okay, so we're touching this side as well. So yeah, if we can tuck that in a tad there, that'd look nice, wouldn't it, people at home? That's a nice, consistent, tight gap.
And then you get to this side and it's... Oh Lord, Lord!
Well, after a long time of adjusting, we've got it to a standard. It's not too bad. There's still some tweaking to do. We're missing a bolt down this end of the wing, so we should be able to pull that in a tad. This side's a little bit tight, but I can just do some slight tweaks by extending the holes on the wing to pull that out, to give us that extra room. But on the whole, pretty good.
Happy.
For what we were expecting it could have been, I think we've got off pretty lightly. There it is, the bonnet is on, but we've got some stuff which we need to swap over. As you can see, the underside of the bonnet at the moment is completely bare, and I want to try and get as much of that stuff off there onto here as possible. There's a couple of reasons why, mainly because some of this I believe helps with cooling and intake temps, because this thing here feeds directly to cool the turbos, so I think it's quite an important thing to have. But on second thoughts, actually, in regards to that, does that here, this vent, replace that? That would actually make sense in my head. So maybe I haven't got to put the sound deadening section on, and maybe that explains why there is actually no mounting holes for it. That's what I'm going to go with for now, I think. I think that makes sense in my brain.
But one thing we do need is the windscreen washer jets, so I've got to drill a hole in the centre of the bonnet where this goes on, to then allow me to drill the other holes in the right spots in order to mount it. And now that's on, we can put on all of the bonnet latching system. And also the vents which go in the bonnet too. Now to make sure I drill the holes in the right place, I've used a chalk pen, put it on the mounting holes and then pressed it in place, which gave me a nice circle to drill in the middle of. And if you're wondering, yes, it is very scary drilling holes in a carbon fibre bonnet.
Well, everything is now on the bonnet, which I think I need. So I've got the latch hooks, I've got this latch section as well, and also these grills. But one of the carbon bits did snap off in this corner, and even though it is holding pretty sturdy, I'm going to try and get that repaired when everything goes for paint, so it is 100%. But now we can step forward and move on, because it's time for the bumper. But there is one piece which I've needed to replace, which was damaged in the crash. And that is this piece here. This is like the bumper bracket, which sits just like that. So I need to put that on. So here is the final big piece of the body kit, the front bumper. And let me run you through how we're going to do this. So we want to try and ensure these bits are as strong as possible, because this is where it's likely to get damaged. There's not a lot of strength in some parts of fiberglass, and we want to make sure it doesn't crack. Now, the standard way of doing this is using this bumper reinforcement bracket, which kind of sits in there, and then the bumper sort of bolts through. But I just don't think that's going to work because of the shape of the grille. As you can see, it clashes there, and definitely doesn't fit down here. So what we're going to do is chop off this section here, allowing us to use the metal plate and plastic reinforcement from the old bumper on this one, and mount it in the exact same way they did in factory, using these little clips here on this side, and then on the wings like this, just here. But for now, we all want to see how this is going to fit. Right, here's the first problem I've encountered. You can see just here, we're getting some clashing, just on that section there, between the bumper and this lip that comes inside it. and also the rad support bracket. It's the same on both sides, so I'm going to have to trim this down a bit, I think, just to get it nice.
Now, I just wanted to thank you guys for the support on the first video of this build, but if you have made it into this one and you're still not subscribed, what are you playing at? We're chasing that 250k subscriber number, so please do subscribe if you're not already. Well, was it not inevitable that I was going to run into some fitment issues? This front bumper definitely needs a bit of work to make it sit perfectly. Here's why. So as you can see here, there's definitely too much of a lip on there, so that the bumper almost needs to come out, but it can't because of the way it's mounted back here. So what I'm thinking I might be able to do is trim some off the back of the wing, re-put those clips in, and that should bring the bumper out. Hopefully I'm right there. And not so bad this side, this bit's not too shabby there, but the back end definitely needs a little bit of well, the same sort of thing as the other side. These bits here, it's like the whole thing needs to just be squished over that way a tad, but it just doesn't want to go. So there's definitely some work which is needed. And then on this bit, just here, we can see that I've got one of the bolts in. Well, I've got the bolt in, and it's that bit there just isn't nice either. We were getting so well up until this point. And lastly, the bumper overlaps underlaps the bonnet, and then we've got a big gap here, which then goes, it's not looking good. Same here, pulls that out. Which is not what I wanted, because well, we were doing really well up until this point, I thought. Bit devastated, but I expected it. It is a body kit. They always need work. It wouldn't have been, well, it'd been too easy, wouldn't it, if it didn't need some. So I need to figure this out, and I need to figure it out fast. Because I've made a booking with the body shop to drop my car off, but if I take it to them in this condition with panel gaps all over the place, they could end up charging me thousands more to put it right. So I need to try and figure out how I'm going to do this and save myself that huge extra cost. That is not too bad now, if you ask me. There is definitely still some work which needs doing here, but maybe that just needs tightening up a bit. I reckon if I tighten that up, that's not going to be far off there. Now, though, we've got, well, this whole mess to sort. I've been playing with it for a little while, and this is the best I can get it. The bumper is all the way this way, and I've been playing around with the wings and stuff like that, but I just can't get it any better, which kind of sucks because, I mean, this does not pass, especially considering how tight the rest of the gaps are. That is practically rubbing, and then you've got another big gap here, which, I mean, that side's not as bad. I feel like that side maybe you'd just get away with it, maybe just, but with how tight it goes here and then how loose it goes here, that's where it fails, I think, really. Damn it. It is the next day, and I went to bed racking my brains a bit last night because I couldn't figure out why this bumper wouldn't fit nicely, and I don't think it's just a badly made bumper. I think it's something that I've done wrong. So I was trying to figure out what it could be. And I don't know about you guys, but does it look ever so slightly like the lip is just pointing a little bit upwards, which means that it's not seated all the way back. Now, if we can get it seated all the way back, would that not bring this gap out a bit? Maybe, would it potentially push that in a tad, which would line the rest of this up, and do the same sort of thing round here, bringing this back up and slightly further away and stop it chafing here. Now, if you can see in here, we've got this plastic shroud which is clashing with the bumper and the mesh. So I'm thinking if I can trim this section off, that'll allow it to seat further back, and maybe it'll fix all my problems. Well, it's definitely worth a shot, I think. So the bumper comes off again, I can trim back those areas where it looks like it's clashing and then try it again. And it definitely is a little bit better, but it's still not where I need it to be. This car needs to look like a £500,000 AMG GT Black Series, and with panel gaps all over the place and the bumper not lining up right, it's not going to look like that at all. So I think it's time we pull in some help from an old friend who's helped us out on this channel many a time now, and with a bit of teamwork, see if we can get any more progress. So that is why we brought Dud back in. You might remember him from the videos where we wrapped the X3, where we did some work on the F-Type, which you now own, but now it's about this body kit, because you can do
things,
a lot of things, and some stuff, definitely. And you reckon that you can help us fit this kit to a much higher standard than what I can do. So what we started doing is trimming a bit more out of here. So we took a chunk out of here already, and did I do that one or did you do that one?
Well, I did this and then you did that. So, somehow it's going to look nice.
Okay, yeah. Okay, nice. And a bit here as well, which makes room for the carbon splitter to slot over it, and that should enable the bumper to come down a tad and hopefully help everything line up a little bit nicer up top. A little bit nicer.
Or a lot, hopefully. Nice gaps, that's what we want.
We want nice gaps.
Because the last thing I want is to have spent all this money on this car and this kit, and then for the panel gaps to look a bit sketchy. So we're really going to try and get this to the best of our ability, and I feel like it's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
Well, we've found what is causing quite a big problem, we think.
So the wings and the bumper, one of them just seems to be too long almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if the wings are too far forward or whether they've just been made too long. We've got to kind of figure that bit, but we're getting there, right?
So when we took the bumper underneath this bit of the wing, not only does it tighten up this gap here, this one now looks a lot better now we've got the front of the bumper sitting down a tad. And this looks quite a lot better when we've done the same thing here, but it also brings in the wing gap as well. So by bolting that to that, it's just throwing everything off and turning it into...
Very, very not that good.
Yes, that.
But we managed to find some areas where the wings are clashing and make up a little bit more room by trimming them back, and hopefully that's going to work.
Let's go 4 mil. Yeah,
4 mil?
Or even 4.5. The yellow is a 1/2 mil.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can, you can do it by eye, but again, so we got tighter here, looser there, so we know we can tweak this.
So we want to go a bit more that way.
Yeah.
Just a tad. Should we just make sure the door opens?
Yeah, nice and slow. Okay.
Looking good. We're getting better. We're getting
so much better,
yeah,
isn't it? It's like really nice.
And after some more fettling and rejigging the panels, we managed to make up that extra room on the front of the wing, enabling the front bumper to fit so much better, and everything else just seemed to fall in place from here. But one of the last things which needs to be sorted is the line from the back of the bonnet to the back of the wing where it meets the A-pillar, but we can just sand this down because it seems to be mating up perfectly everywhere else now.
Well, we are making some pretty good progress, haven't we, Dud? It's looking good.
Looking way, way better.
Way better. So we've started taking the edges off up here. Now everything seems to be lining up a little bit better with just a minor finesse needed. But there is one bit which needs a little bit more, which is this gap just here. Let's explain why. Because at the top, even though that looks a little big, they've took a little bit excess material off. So that's actually a 4 mil gap, all the way down to around here when it starts really tightening up. So we need to take a bit of extra material off there to make that match up here, and we should be good then, shouldn't we?
Should be all good in the hood, best mechanical fit possible.
Yeah, and then that just leaves a little bit more.
A tiny bit of filling and sanding just to finesse it.
Yeah, and then
good job.
Well, it's been a long night, but we have made some huge progress.
We do have a gap around here. There is going to be a need for an under tray to pull the bumper tight, and also a little bit of work here needed because there's some strange sort of raised defect with a bigger gap there. But anyway, let's gloss over that. Wing gaps looking nice and tight. Maybe a little bit too tight in some areas, but that can be body worked out, can't it, Dud?
Yes.
Great.
And it's the same story on this side.
So we've got a nice consistent gap somehow. I don't know how we managed it, to be honest with you, how it was looking earlier. And the only bits which I think might need a little bit of work is just on the corners of the bumper down here. This one's actually alright, I think, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave that
to the body shop because obviously they're going to want to have their own input on how it's done, I guess.
Door shut gap done. We've done a lot, Dud. We've done well.
We've done a lot. It's looking really good, to be fair.
I can't believe how well it turned out.
Tiny bit of sanding down these lines here just to perfect it before the paint goes on. That's it. Easy peasy.
Happy days.
Eh?
Yeah,
It's not late now, is it?
Not at all, no.
Now, if you want a kit like this yourself, or a kit for pretty much any other car, Dud can supply and fit them as well to this standard and better. Probably better actually, because I've not touched it. So if you do want to get in touch with him to get any custom body kits fitted, you do wrapping, tuning,
full vehicle customization.
Anything you need doing, Dud's the man to go to. He is in Ulster. Yeah, if you need him, I'm going to leave his links in the description. Go check him out, cool guy. And yeah, he knows his stuff, so I'll leave his links down there. Now, one final talking point for just tonight is this, the splitter. Now, this isn't a replica of the Black Series part. This is an addition to the replica of the Black Series lip, because it goes on this kit, something like that. I don't hate it. I don't mind it, it's a bit of an extension, but here is my concern, because that's going to be much easier to catch on a speed bump, on just, well, anything basically, and then it could in turn rip all of this off, damage this, and just cause a whole world load of headaches. So am I best off just running without it? I'm going to give it some thought. It might be something that I put on when I go to shows or something like that, but don't use regularly, because it's fairly easy to take on and off. I think that might be the best way of doing it, actually, now I think about it.
Now, we had to drain the oil in the car earlier in the video to fit the new oil cooler line, so I've popped on a new filter and some fresh Mercedes oil to go in too.
Right, she starts. That's good. Now what I need to do, because I've done as much as I can right here, is get this car to the body shop. And obviously I can't drive it there, so we're going to have to trailer it. But you guys need to see what you think to this kit.
Man, you hella won't. I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket. I'm hunting, looking for a comer. This is awesome. I'll wear your granddad's clothes. I look incredible. I'm in this big ass coat from that thrift shop down the road. I'll wear your granddad's clothes. I look incredible. Come on, man. I'm in this big ass coat from that thrift shop down the road.
The AMG is now looking a hell of a lot better than it was at the start of the video. We've got the panel gaps somewhere near where they need to be, but now it's over to the guys at Flat Out Paint Shop who are going to take over from here, and this is going to take a few weeks. It's not an overnight process, so bear with me on it, and it's going to be worth it by the end of it. But if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, and I'll catch you next time.